lot of hopes about the type of future that we can have, with the multiple devices that will surround us. Already now, we are surrounded by an incredible amount of devices. A nearer future that we might imagine is actually that those devices will be intelligent and smart enough to talk to each other and actually, in fact, facilitate our daily life and make it easier, make it more fun, make it more interesting.
One thing I'm very excited about now, my research group is really kind of forming around this big issue, and I think it's core to pervasive computing, is really how do humans interface with this electronic nervous system that's covering the planet. So we're building it out, we're bringing it in on the backs of our devices that have ever more sensors on it, that begin to have more and more networking capability. And this system is just assembling itself. It's not as if it's a top-down intelligent superhighway plan. It's just happening on the backs of what we already have.
So, my Android phone has touch sensors, it's got light sensors, it's got accelerometers, it's just got a huge number of sensors that can tell me where I am. It's got cell phone positioning, Wi-Fi positioning, GPS. And the ability for me to collect all this information from just tons and tons of people and be able to do interesting things with it is really compelling to me.
Computationally, we can have this very small thing that has the core compute, memory, storage requirements. I think the interesting thing comes into how does the user interact with that. I think here you're likely to have a handheld that has a reasonable sized display like you are now, but you're also likely to have many peripherals, and the peripherals are probably going to be I/O peripherals, things like keyboards or displays, little projectors, head-mounted displays. I think there's going to be this kind of whole ecosystem of UI devices that the user winds up having the availability to use to enhance and get more capability out of the computational resources that the phone provides.
Everything is a sensor, everything is a computer, there's different sensors, different computers everywhere. So I think the really next thing it is to how to make them work together. So sort of like if you have a little computer in the wall there measuring temperature, well perhaps that temperature setting can be read, can actually collaborate with some other computational units to find out whether there's a person here or not. Or maybe even go beyond that to understand what this person needs. Does this person feel hot? Does this person feel cold? Sort of using all these sensory information to actually understand things on a human level.
And I think there's going to be an exciting time, a phase shift in this whole ecosystem of devices within the next few years. When we don't necessarily author content anymore on one device, we author on top of an ecology of devices. So all the devices in our vicinity, all the devices that are around will play some role in these applications we develop.
A lot of the work I'm doing right now is to use platforms like this for health. And I think that's one of the exciting new domains that I would say 5 years ago was really hard to do in pervasive computing without going to hospital environments and clinical environments. We can actually start doing that with everyday people as they just talk to each other.
For the last few years, we've been focusing on what we call participatory sensing, where we leverage mobile phones combined with web services or the cloud, whatever is your preferred term, and really engage people in sensing, in capturing data, and in understanding things about both their environment and themselves. We've been working with a bunch of folks in Boyle Heights, a community in East LA, that's been engaging youth, teens, as well as adults in documenting environmental factors related to health in their environment. And we had a really interesting first experiment with that this past spring with about 100 citizens running little smartphone applications, and now we're rolling that together into a sort of a systematic storytelling.
Right now, computers are very logical in their interpretation. They know which access point they're connected to and an IP address and some other very vaguely human configuration parameters. What we need to do is make those much more real in a sense that humans can understand.
And again, we won't do it for realizing this vision of pervasive computing. We're going to do it just to serve the applications that we know now. But at a certain point, when we do develop this capability, it'll shift, just like the way the web shifted the way we look at personal computers now.
Really what I'm trying to do with the magazine is to put it right at the heart of the community. So we're trying to engage in conferences, trying to engage with researchers, and really kind of move the discipline forward. The magazine was set up with the idea of being a catalyst, really, to encourage development in mobile and ubiquitous computing, and that's very much what we're continuing to try and do.
So Intel spent a lot of time talking about the smart grid and looking end to end at what's happening with energy consumption and energy conservation. and how we should really have an effect, what we can do with our platforms, how we can really start to move forward this idea of energy efficiency. And we realized when we looked at it that there were lots of things we could do across the grid, but where we really thought we could have an impact was with the consumer, with this whole idea of personal energy.
One of the big things about energy is until you actually know where it's going, you really cannot do much about optimizing for it. And this is the primary goal that the whole dashboard is sort of geared to try to solve.
I don't just want to know how much energy I've used. I want to know what used it and what I can do to make it better. So I need suggestions. I need something that changes with me and changes with my life and is dynamic with my lifestyle. And I need to be able to interact with a device that's helping me be more energy efficient by having other kinds of applications that bring me back to the device off.
I think one of the important models that we can start to leverage is that of social systems. I know lots of people. I have lots of friends, family. I have a good relationship with that ecosystem of people. How do I then take those same principles and apply it towards an ecosystem of devices in my computing technology?
In the workplace and also in the school environments, that's what quite often, unfortunately, we lose a sense of playfulness. And now I'm very passionate about it because there is a strong link and bond between playfulness and creativity.
Over in my group, we're looking at several technologies where mobile computing can be used in the retail sector and also in the financial services sector for purposes such as mobile wallets, where people can put many of their physical things that are currently in their wallet in a mobile device such as a phone. These include things like loyalty cards, payment instruments, electronic receipts, personal photographs, and things like that. And what we're trying to do is make these all context aware, so you don't have to kind of fish out 100 different things from your physical phone wallet, but they're kind of presented right on the first screen based on your location, based on what you're trying to do, and things of that sort.
I've been working with a third grade classroom, 30 students that are all working together. Each one of them has their own computer. There's a massive amount of underlying social dynamics in the classroom. Little side conversations, kids are running around all over the place. How do we start to use perceptual techniques, so listening to audio, video, and things like that, to understand these social dynamics, and then map that onto what the technology understands about the environment?
So imagine your physician is adjusting your medication, giving you a new dose, and asks you for those couple of weeks to be observing of things that are both perhaps side effects or symptoms, whether it's disrupted sleep or dizziness or nausea, as well as reminding you to take your meds or check your blood pressure. And it becomes, again, smartphones along with analytics and storage on the web become a really easy way to do systematic data collection and observation, whether it's about yourself or about the environment.
We instrumented a building, the Computer Science and Engineering building, which is one of the newest buildings on campus, and it's also one of the prototypical smart buildings. It has very nice capabilities in terms of dynamic window shading and all sorts of current generation technologies to reduce the energy. And we broke it down further to figure out how much of the energy is going into lighting, how much of the energy is going into HVAC, how much of the energy is going into servers. What's surprising is that even though our building is a computer science and engineering building, our IT power, servers and desktop PCs and laptops consume between 50 to 80% of our total power, so which is a staggering amount. And if you consider the amount of power it takes for the air conditioning to actually cool these computers, we're actually almost sort of hit by this double whammy. And we can measure all of that because we have deployed these end-use energy sensors that actually break down the energy use of each individual PC users, and they can see their usage before and after, and as a result they sort of see how their behavioral changes and how they use their PCs, and by deploying a system, how it actually affects their energy usage in terms of dollar savings, in terms of carbon footprint.
It has several sensors with it that you plug in and can immediately start sensing not just the energy you're consuming, but temperature and humidity and light, other things about the ambient environment of the home to give more information to the data, so that the data makes more sense to you when it's presented. So knowing that my house is in Arizona, it's 114 degrees, the back of the house faces west, and so it's very warm in the afternoon when we're cooking and watching a movie together. That information is really important to help make sense of things I can do to make the house more efficient.
We see it as very important to work closely with not only our internal contacts and business units and other partners, but rather the external research community, and to help everyone work together in a more coordinated fashion.
So right now it's actually constantly moving forward. That's why it's spinning to stay in place. But you see, because they're so small, they're actually pretty sturdy, so you could just hit it. This one actually can't do much. So a whole bunch of these can actually collaborate and do a lot more processing. Now, unlike robots, these things, each one of these is capable of small part of a task. So some will actually land and be able to guide the rest of the helicopters to where they want to go. And some of these things will be able to actually search around and take pictures. And some of these will actually take that picture and process it. So, it's really like a whole bunch of small insects that actually works together to accomplish a goal for the hive.
So participatory sensing for us is a way of really bringing smartphones and the cloud and analytics to areas of public health and education and engagement.
It's really shifting the conversation. Instead of designing for a user, it's really about designing with the user and really identifying who is the user.
We're doing a lot of upgrades, and this is really the beginning. And there's a lot of opportunity in terms of what we can actually get and how we can be much greener campus.
But I do wonder what the next big innovation is going to be to make ubiquitous computing and pervasive computing really, really ubiquitous, pervasive.
Is going to be very exciting because it's going to be a big challenge for technologists, and it's going to be a huge challenge for designers. I've got a background in design, and I know how challenging it is for designers to suddenly work with users and embrace them as collaborators. It's a big challenge, and I think it's going to be an equal challenge for technologists for different reasons. But I think that's the only way to do it, because this is a high level of complexity, and we cannot do it in little silos. We really need to work together in a big cohesive way to really have this bigger picture coming to life.